Hello and welcome to this video once again. And just want to talk a little more about the state of this country and address to my viewers about how I feel what's going on is very serious in this country right now. And, I love America. I don't want to live in another country. I owe my allegiance to the flag of the United States. I don't want to be in another country because the United States is such a unique country. There's no place like it. All right. Um, but our country is being destroyed by an element, an oligarchy, um, by Donald Trump, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, and they had an address last night, which I did not watch because all he was doing was lying his mouth off, like he always does. But this isn't about his lies as so much as it is about the state of our democracy and how our federal government is being dismantled. Um, Agencies are seeing massive cuts all across the whole federal government. Every single federal agency, they're seeing massive cuts. People are losing their jobs. And I understand and support the need to cut waste. But clearly, the people that are being laid off are important people that had important jobs. And the government agencies that were completely shut down, like USAID, was very important for our standing in the world. And the thing is that Donald Trump and Elon Musk didn't even have the right to shut those things down. In fact, there have been numerous orders from judges saying that those organizations shouldn't be shut down and they should be reinstated. But they're not following the orders of the judges. And we have a constitutional crisis as a result. So in my video last night, I was pretty mad at the end. All right. And I don't want to see any violence. That's not the way we handle things in this country. However, what happens when the people that swore to uphold the Constitution and took their oath, i.e., Congress, aren't doing their job? What happens when that happens? What do we do then? When we have a Congress that is controlled by Trump's party, which is, I don't even want to call it Republican because it's not the Republican Party that I grew up with. The Republican Party of Ronald Reagan would never violate people's rights and treat people like this. This is not a Republican Party. This is a MAGA Party. It's no Republicans. The Republican Party, as we know it, is gone. It has now been replaced by the MAGA Party. All right? And they owe complete allegiance to Donald Trump. And whatever Donald Trump says, they go along with it. Even if Donald Trump changes his mind on something, they'll change their mind too. They'll go right along with it. I mean, you saw that with the meeting with Zelensky, and how it's so obvious that Trump is on Putin's side and we are turning our back on Ukraine. It's obvious. And Ronald Reagan would be rolling in his grave to see this because we all know how Ronald Reagan felt about Russia, even though it's not Soviet Russia. Putin is basically trying to recreate the Soviet Union. All right? But instead, we have a Republican Party that, again, does not exist anymore. It is now the MAGA Party. And they owe their allegiance to Trump. And what do we do now? What do we do now? We have to protest. We have our right. When our government officials aren't listening, then we must protest. We must protest in front of Congress. We must protest in front of the White House. We must call them every day and remind them of the oath they took. We have a president that is violating the Constitution, a president that is illegally cutting programs, cutting stuff that Congress has already permitted. It is already budgeted for. All these things he's cutting were already budgeted by Congress. So the president does not have the right to override Congress, but because Congress is controlled by the MAGA party, or they're just saying, well, go ahead and do it. They're not going to, because again, they're the MAGA party. They're beholden to Trump. All right. This is like the Third Reich in Germany all over again. We don't want to let it get to that point, but it's going to quickly get there if we don't start doing something about it. And that means protesting. That means massive protests. It seems that there is such apathy in this country that people aren't aware of what's going on. There's starting to be more people more aware, but by now we should be protesting in the Capitol. We should be surrounding Congress and demanding the impeachment and removal of Donald Trump for many, many violations of the law. But we're not doing that. I don't see that happening. And that didn't happen in Germany either, because again, they have the control of your minds. They have control over your mind. And many people in this country are brainwashed to think that, and still are, including a good number of people who comment here, they think that Trump is going to help this country. They think we're going to be better off with Trump. And they believe his lies. They believe his lies when he says, oh, he won't cut Medicaid, he won't eliminate Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security. What happens when Elon Musk says Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme? And remember who's in control here. It's Elon Musk. He's Dr. Evil. What do you think if he would get rid of Social Security completely and privatize it if he could? He would do that. And he would basically tell people like me, you're worthless, you deserve nothing, and throw me out on the street with nothing. All right? That's the kind of person Elon Musk is. And Donald Trump, he acts like he cares, but he thinks the same way. But he spent almost 2 hours last night lying about stuff. And look, our Congress is not responding. And part of it is because we're not reacting fast enough. People aren't aware of how serious this is. Why can't people organize and pick one day to go to the Capitol and occupy the Capitol? Surround Congress, surround the White House, and demand that they act and remove this president. Why aren't people doing that? I don't know. And look, I'm all for cutting waste, but you're not cutting waste when you're laying off people at NOAA and the National Weather Service who have very important positions to forecast natural disasters. And I've already noticed a difference in the Weather Service. It seems like they're not responding as quick as they usually do to things, this past storm especially. Because they're layoffs. And imagine how you feel as a federal worker. Your morale must be absolutely terrible. And so, without a good morale, this is what happens. You're going to start seeing a deterioration in the quality of our weather forecasts. And one thing, the United States, more than any other country, we had one of the best weather systems in the whole world. And Trump, Doge, and Elon Musk are dismantling it. And they're dismantling all these things because, just like the Consumer Protection Bureau, they are dismantling all these things so they can take that money and then give it to themselves, give it to the oligarchy, the richest people. When you look at Donald Trump and his when he was inaugurated and they had that parade, you look at all the people standing behind him, and they were the richest people in the country. Is this a person that's going to be looking out for the common man? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So what happens if we don't rise up and do something? We lose the United States as we know it. All right? Remember when Trump said, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. I don't even know what it is. And yet it's very interesting that the person who created Trump, the architect of that, is now in his administration. And Project 2025 will be pushed through. And we will see the dismantling of the federal government as we know it. Your national parks, The states will probably have to take them over because the federal government, they're going to be sold off to private developers. All right. Your weather service, that's going to be privatized. You may have to pay for weather forecasts. All right. You have to pay for weather forecasts. Social Security would be dismantled as we know it. And people like me would probably be said, well, sorry, no services for you. I guess it would be up to my state instead to provide those services. There'd be cuts to transportation, and we'd see huge wealth inequality in this country. Probably the kind of wealth inequality we had over 100 years ago. That's how far we would set the clock back in this country. And a civil war could possibly erupt, and the country would break up as we know it. And honestly, if that is a real possibility, that we may see many states in this country secede from this country and become part of Canada. Speaking of Canada, outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, actually, I wish we had somebody like that running this country. There's somebody who really cares about people. He's standing up for his country right now and doing the right thing and putting Trump in his place. And worst comes to worst, obviously, I think New York, New Jersey, the following states, I think would in a matter of in a civil war, I think New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, along with Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, possibly, Minnesota, California, Oregon, Washington, possibly Arizona and Colorado would actually become part of Canada. And that we might have to do that if we can't take back the federal government. That's what we might have to do. It's going to be a lot worse. So I want this done in a peaceful manner. I don't want to see violence, but as I said last night at the end of that video, I said, this is war. It may come down to something that's not peaceful. I don't want to see that. I don't advocate for that, but I'm saying that there's a real possibility that that's going to happen. As long as Congress refuses to listen to the people and refuses to honor their oath with each day that goes by, the risk of having violence grows. I want to see Trump, Elon Musk, possibly J.D. Vance, those three, at the very least, maybe even Mike Johnson, charged with their failure to follow the laws of the Constitution. I'd like to see them removed from office and sentenced to prison. That's the way things are supposed to work in this country. Because each and every one of them has violated the rights of the people, violated the Constitution, and defied judges' orders. They don't want to follow the orders of a judge. And you do those things, you should wind up in jail. And honestly, as far as Trump goes, I think he needs to spend the rest of his life in a prison cell. And he could have been there if it wasn't for Mitch McConnell refusing to convict him in that impeachment for that insurrection on January 6th. And I was speaking about that in last night's video as well, about the insurrection. And possibly that we might have to have an insurrection. I don't want to see that happen, but it may take that to get our country back. It may take that to get our country back. And yeah, January 6th, Trump was behind that, and somehow he's not eligible to be the president of the United States, first of all, for being involved in that. And there was no need for that. Joe Biden won that election. But now we actually do have a need for an insurrection. We have a president that is violating judges' orders, not following the Constitution, and a Congress that is refusing to honor their oath and uphold the laws of the United States. So what do? I don't want to see an insurrection, but I think it might wind up coming down to that. And that's why I put the title, Impeach Trump Now, or We Will Revolt. That was the thumbnail for the video yesterday, because that's what's going to happen if you don't honor your oath. I'm talking to all our local congressmen out there, and I know our Democrats will honor their oath and try to impeach them. And I think each and every Democrat in Congress should be drafting articles of impeachment. But our Republican Congress people, Nick LaLota and the others, who, by the way, voted for the bill to cut Medicaid. Well, they say they're not cutting, they're cutting the funds for the department that oversees Medicaid. But the thing is, the amount of money they're cutting, which is $880 billion, there's no way to cut that amount of money and not cut Medicaid. That's a fact. But again, there are people out there, including some people comment here, that just believe the lies. Some of the people actually rely on the programs and still think they're going to be okay. I think you're wrong. Why should we have to face cuts? Why should we have to face cuts? Well, the rich get richer. That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. But that's what's going on in our country. Our country, this is a coup by the oligarchy, by the richest people in this country, to take and dismantle our federal government so they can profit and have more control over us. And we become a dictatorship. We're no longer a democracy. We're no longer a republic, but a dictatorship, where Trump has absolute power. And I don't think the state of New York, or the state of New Jersey, or the state of Connecticut wants to be part of a dictatorship. And if we can't get Trump out and people won't mobilize to take back our country, then we have the rights as states to secede from this country. I don't want to see it. I love America. But if America no longer exists as we know it, then I think that New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and the other states I mentioned really need to consider seceding from the country and becoming part of Canada. But of course, my fear is that, of course, Trump will not try to stop that and use the military to try to stop that. And again, every officer in the military, every police officer, you also took an oath. And you have to honor that. And you should never follow illegal orders from a dictator. But I'm worried that is the direction we're heading in. This is why I'm speaking up about this stuff now, because I don't want to have that down the road. The sooner we act and force Congress to do their duty and remove this illegitimate wannabe dictator from the White House, the better off the United States will be. And look, you can say, all right, the Republicans, should I say MAGA, won the election. You can say that. And yeah, it's true. They'd have to, and then J.D. Vance would become the president. All right, I know that. And then Mike Johnson would become the vice president. And Elon Musk also has to be completely out of our lives. Or he needs to be deported back to South Africa. All right. He has no business. He has no right to do what he's doing. All right. And maybe if we cut the head off the monster, so to speak, the monster will die and we may get the old Republican Party back again. But I'll never vote for a Republican again. If, God forbid, Hochul runs, I hope she doesn't run again as the Democrat. Hopefully she gets primary out. But if, God forbid, she does run, I have to vote for her over Republicans. I can't trust the Republicans right anymore after this. They won't honor, they sold themselves out, became the MAGA Party. And going back from MAGA to Republican, I don't know. I don't see it happening. Now I know there is some special elections are coming up this summer, and hopefully those seats can be flipped to the Democrats in the House, so at least the Democrats can get the House back and save our country. But this is very serious. Project 2025 is here. It's in full effect. It's happening. And I have friends who are work in the government who are very worried about losing their jobs. In fact, they think they are going to lose their jobs very soon. I have family that was involved in government jobs as well, and they're worried as well. Um, these people have an important job, whether it be forecasting the weather, whether it be protecting our national parks, whether it be going through the finances of our government and making sure everybody pays their fair share in taxes. All these things are very important jobs, but they're being fired. Every day, more and more are being fired. And eventually there's going to be nothing left. That's why I said you got to resist yesterday. I said you got to resist. We have to resist this. We have to resist this. People should not go along with this because Trump is an illegitimate president. Each and every one of his executive orders are worthless because he is not really a legal president, because he violated the law by storming the Capitol in an insurrection. That already disqualifies him from being the president. But Congress isn't doing their job. And so what happens when Congress doesn't do their job and they don't follow judges' orders? Then it's up to us, the people. It's actually our duty as Americans to speak up when our Constitution and our laws are being violated. And it's our duty, actually, that's why the right to bear arms is in the Constitution, to take back our country, perhaps even by force, if we have to. Now, again, don't want to see that happen. But the longer this goes on, the more likely that attempt may happen. And who knows if it would be successful. Or we may have a civil war again. And honestly, once it gets to that point and our states don't want to do anything to secede, then they have to flee the country. And hopefully Canada will welcome us. But that is all I'm going to say. God bless America. Pray for a peaceful, lawful resolution to this coup. But keep in mind that it may not be peaceful. I hope Congress is listening to this. You took an oath. Please, for the love of God, honor that oath. Remove Donald Trump from the office of the White House. Expel Elon Musk from this country. It's your duty as an American to do that. Thank you for watching.